Hey guys, a short video on how we do CRM management today. This is a workflow that we've built that we use with our customers. Basically, what we're doing is we're getting the data from at your HubSpot into Clay. Now, Clay is the centerpiece that is acting on the entire enrichment process. Now, don't get overwhelmed by looking at all of these workflows because most of these things that you look at on the screen are possible within Clay, right? Now you could choose to do a lot of the enrichments outside of Clay, where it might cost you a little less. Um, but then you can do most of them within Clay because they are like inbuilt functionalities, inbuilt enrichments. And these are the 4 or 5 things that we do. And trust me, more than 80% of the CRM enrichments gets covered within these 5, 6 enrichments that I'm showing over here. The lowest hanging fruit for any CRM enrichment is email enrichment across 10 data providers, or finding the LinkedIn profile, or trying to find that bio, trying to find any recent post that they've done so that you could use intent around it. And the next is you do email verification. Now, email verification within Clay is obviously expensive, but you could have your own API keys. AI enrichments, web scraping, this is like the holy grail within Clay. ClayAgent can do a lot of things. You can literally find contacts of people by just giving, by just giving the company name. And then if you'd like to have technographic data like intent, lookalikes, you could use built with Ocean, Crunchbase, and all of those integrations. Then we are sending all the data to, like instant DLM list if we want to do outbound campaigns from here. And obviously the leads come back with notifications Slack, and then they get updated back on at your HubSpot, right? Now I'm going to show you how, before you move into a CRM enrichment process. I'm not going to discuss about outbound strategy. Before you go into a CRM enrichment process, it's very important that you have some broad goals defined, and then each of those goals has some sort of metric inside it. And I'll tell you why, because CRM management is a slightly qualitative process and it's difficult to put metrics, but it'll be important to say that I'm going to enrich, say, 80% of the leads with right contact details and then reach out to 80% of those contacts using email or LinkedIn, right? But having such metrics is very important because it will get very, very messy when you're trying to, figure out what you were trying to achieve in the beginning. The second thing is, after your goals are set, it's important what enrichments you want to do. And the third is, how would you segment the data? For example, any CRM enrichment is going to go upwards of 10,000 contacts, right? It's important to figure out how do you segment the data and do outreach. Now, let's dive into the few goals that we usually discuss. The first step is obviously enriching your contacts across geographies, products, finding the right contact information, finding the right firmographic data, the right technographic data, so that you can build a pipeline for the client that you're working. And it'll be great if you could find some intent as well for those contacts. The second important thing would be to segment the database into existing customers, dormant customers, customers who are rating you high with high NPS scores, based on existing product usage. If you are storing how much of your how many modules or how many different types of products the customer is using, the various locations that the customer is operating out from. Uh, Based on the segmentation, you can figure out your upsell, cross-sell, and your reactivation campaigns. Now, why I stress upon this point is that without the segmentation, actually it will be very difficult for you to figure out what you want to enrich in the first place, right? So while you build these goals, it's important to figure out how you're going to segment your customers. And then the third activity is infrastructure setup and then messaging. I'm not going to cover that in this video. Moving on to the enrichment data points. So one of the most powerful aspects in Clay is the multi-source contact discovery. I think it's important for you to set a goal that I want to get 95% of the contacts, right? And the data points that you will get for sure are email, LinkedIn, phone number, company emails, addresses. If you're doing Google Maps scraping, you might as well get the number of ratings, rating counts, and all of that. The second is there are about 15 to 20 data providers that can give you firmographic data, right? Like, um, the employee counts, the number of locations that this company is operating at. And then you could also add AI, and you could also add a bit of web scraping to figure out a lot of other data from their websites. And you could segment them based on, the revenue that these customers are giving you, or the last interaction you've had with those customers, say within the last 3 years, 3 to 5 years, and greater than 5 years. This is a very, very important step. When done right, it can give you really great segments to work on, right? The next set of enrichments are like technographic, intelligence, like the tech stack that they're using, website traffic, and any specific tools that they're. And after technographic intelligence, you can find intent data, you can find job postings, any LinkedIn post by them, expansion news. Now, the last part is a very important step. Once you've enriched all of the data, it's important that you assign that to an SDR. Otherwise, the lead will just float around without any accountability, right? And then it's also important that if you have 10,000 leads, you score them based on your segments, you score them based on your priority uh, of what your strategy says at that point of time. So let's say you want to reach out to existing customers first versus you want to reach out to dormant leads later, then you give a higher lead scoring to that specific lead, right? Briefly talking about the segments. So you could create your existing customers based on high value, low value, so that you can figure out your upsell strategy. How do you categorize your dormant leads? It's based on the last interaction. You can segment it based on 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5, and then greater than 5 years. You could segment based on how happy your customers are. If someone has rated you greater than 8 on your NPS, then obviously that customer is willing to take other category of products as well, right? So, so this was a video on CRM management. Please ping me if you need any help with any of your CRM management process. This is the workflow that I'm sharing again. In case you need a workflow of this in a PDF format, please let me know. Thank you.